A 15-year-old boy is charged in a triple homicide in Odessa, Texas. At around 5:45 p.m. on Tuesday the 9th of December 2025, police responded to reports of shots fired at the 87th Street Apartments, located at 8740 Hunter Miller Way. When officers arrived, they found 3 victims inside the residence, all pronounced dead at the scene. The victims were identified as 39-year-old Jessica Rodriguez, her 13-year-old daughter and her 9-year-old son. The suspect fled the scene but was captured along Andrews Highway just over half an hour later. He was taken into custody without incident, and he's been held at the Ector County Youth Center. Investigators say the teenager had originally planned to target his 15-year-old ex-girlfriend outside of school. She was not physically harmed. Instead, he went to her home, where he fatally shot her mother and 2 siblings. Police Chief Mike Girk noted the suspect had 1 prior police contact involving a family argument, but nothing that suggested a threat of violence. He also said anyone who helped provide the firearm or knew about the alleged plan could face charges. Prosecutors will determine whether the teen will be tried as an adult, a decision that could allow his name to be released publicly. Authorities have not clarified whether the suspect forced entry into the apartment, nor where the girl was during the shooting. The suspect has been charged with capital murder of multiple persons, a capital felony. The investigation remains ongoing. A violent home invasion has ended in deadly gunfire. At around 7 a.m. on the 11th of December 2025, 29-year-old D'Angelo Murphy reportedly broke into a residence in the 1700 block of 21st Street in Gulfport, Mississippi, armed with a hammer and a knife. Inside, he encountered 2 women, both of whom had active protective orders against him. During the confrontation, 1 woman sustained a knife injury. The 2 managed to barricade themselves in another room. The uninjured woman retrieved a firearm and opened fire, fatally striking D'Angelo. The Harrison County coroner later confirmed D'Angelo's identity. Gulfport Police Lieutenant Jason Ducray noted that D'Angelo had been out on bond at the time of the attack. Records show he was arrested on the 10th of October for allegedly kidnapping one of the women, and was released on bond 15 days later. Lieutenant Ducray stated it appears the women acted in self-defense, though the case remains under investigation. A couple allegedly attempted to flush their newborn down a toilet before ultimately burying her in a beer box. On Friday the 5th of December 2025, 36-year-old Nicole Pokrzywa and 38-year-old William Cosmen were arrested after deputies received a report of a possible buried infant outside a residence in the 1900 block of Roberts Road in Wilmington, Illinois. Earlier that morning, at around 9 a.m., investigators secured the property and after digging roughly 3 feet into the ground, discovered an old-style beer box. Inside were the remains of a baby girl, wrapped in plastic and cloth, with the grave marked by a makeshift headstone. Police say Nicole had prematurely given birth at a separate residence in Manhattan, Illinois, when she was 6 to 8 months pregnant. Both suspects admitted that the infant was born in a toilet. William admittedly tried to force the body down the drain using a plunger, but when that failed, the baby was left in the toilet overnight. The following day, the child was wrapped in a shirt and plastic bag, then transported to Wilmington, where the couple dug a hole approximately 3 feet wide and 4 feet deep to bury the remains. A forensic pathologist later concluded the infant was between 22 and 27 weeks gestation. Nicole and William were charged with desecration of a corpse. Authorities say additional charges may follow pending autopsy and toxicology results. Both were booked into the Will County Adult Detention Center, but released later that day on a notice to appear in court. Police are investigating after a father was shot and killed outside a Bojangles restaurant in Palmetto, Georgia. At around 1:15 p.m. on Sunday the 7th of December 2025, officers responded to the Bojangles at 9135 Roosevelt Highway on reports of shots fired. When they arrived, they found Dominique Goodman dead in the parking lot with gunshot wounds. Dominique had come to the restaurant after his teenage daughter, an employee, called him for help. Family members said her daughter phoned home because the shift manager had allegedly been picking on her during her shift. Investigators determined that Dominique and the manager, Maurice Nolan Evans, were involved in an argument that escalated into gunfire. Maurice had reportedly been sent home earlier, but was waiting in the parking lot when Dominique arrived. Dominique tried to talk with him, but Maurice got out of his car and shot him multiple times. Police confirmed Maurice was an employee of Bojangles. He was arrested and charged with aggravated assault, murder, and possession of a firearm during the commission of a felony. Maurice was booked into the Fulton County Jail, waived his first court appearance on the 8th of December, and remains held without bond. On the 30th of November 2025, an inmate with the Ascension Parish Jail in Donaldsonville, Louisiana, was fatally struck after what officials describe as a sudden and violent attack. The victim was 40-year-old Charles Stafford of Gonzales. Just weeks earlier, in October 2025, Charles had pleaded guilty to oral sexual battery involving a child under 13 and was sentenced to 30 years in prison. That conviction stemmed from a case first investigated in 2014 when the child's mother discovered him with her son. Investigators say Charles was involved in a brief verbal exchange with another inmate, 56-year-old Stacy LeBlanc of Belrose. Within seconds, Stacy punched Charles once. He fell backward. His head struck the concrete floor, causing severe head trauma. Sheriff Bobby Webbery explained, "He gets clobbered. He falls. Back of his head cracks. He never gained consciousness again." Charles was rushed to a local hospital and placed in intensive care. He died on Tuesday, the 2nd of December from severe brain swelling, 2 days after the altercation. The child's mother, referred to only as Jane to protect her identity, has spent more than 10 years fighting for justice. "We found out he was beaten," Jane said, "that he was punched once and hit the concrete." District Attorney Ricky Babin emphasised how quickly the altercation unfolded. "This happened so fast. I don't care if you've been 20 feet away." Stacy had been booked into the Ascension Parish Jail on the 22nd of September 2025, facing multiple charges including aggravated assault with a firearm and possession of a firearm by a person convicted of certain felonies. He has a lengthy criminal history. Initially charged with second-degree battery after the incident, Stacy's charge was formally upgraded to manslaughter on the 3rd of December, following Charles's death. Online jail records show his bond was increased to $475,000, $175,000 from an earlier booking, plus an additional $300,000 after the manslaughter charge. The altercation occurred during routine medication distribution, known as pill call. Guards were present but unable to intervene in time. Officials note that this is the only inmate death at Ascension Parish Jail this year. Sheriff Webbery said fights do happen in a facility housing nearly 500 inmates, but rarely with such tragic outcomes. He doesn't anticipate immediate policy changes, though procedures will be reviewed as part of the ongoing homicide investigation. On the 8th of December 2025, 42-year-old William Bigaud Jr. of Cromwell, Connecticut, was sentenced to 70 years in prison for the killing of his children's mother. The sentence includes 50 years for murder and an additional 20 years for home invasion. On the 7th of October, William was found guilty of murder, home invasion, first-degree burglary, and risk of injury to a child. The charges stem from an incident on the 8th of June 2020, when police responded to Green Street in Middletown, Connecticut for a domestic violence call. Officers arrived to find a woman suffering fatal stab wounds. The victim was identified as 38-year-old Quanisha Burruss. Family members later revealed that Quanisha had endured years of domestic abuse and isolation prior to her death. That morning, Quanisha heard a knock at her apartment door and told her younger son not to open it. When William found the door locked, he climbed through a window to gain entry. Inside the kitchen, a conversation between William and Quanisha escalated into violence. William grabbed a knife from the apartment and began attacking her. Their oldest son, who just walked into the room, witnessed the assault. Both children fled the apartment, one narrowly escaping William's attempt to grab him. Quanisha managed to step outside, shouting for someone to call 911 before collapsing back inside. Paramedics attempted to save her, but Quanisha was pronounced dead upon her arrival at Middlesex Hospital. She had suffered a stab wound near her heart and a cut above her eye. William fled the scene, but was captured 2 days later in LaGrange, Georgia, following a high-speed police chase. A Louisiana man who broadcast a killing on social media will spend the rest of his life behind bars. On the 9th of December 2025, 39-year-old Earl Lee Johnson Jr. was sentenced to 999 years in prison without the possibility of probation, parole, or suspension of sentence for the first-degree murder of 34-year-old Janice David. Earl was found guilty in September. At just before 10 p.m. on the 18th of April 2022, police discovered Janice's body inside a vehicle in the parking lot near Sherwood Tower in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Authorities reported that Earl had attempted to burn the car with Janice still inside. Investigators determined Earl and Janice had been on a 2-day drug binge before the attack. Earl tied Janice to the steering wheel with jumper cables, then stabbed her 32 times, choked her, and struck her with a tire iron. The assault was streamed live on Facebook for 16 minutes. Baton Rouge Police Department spokesperson Legene McNeely described it as a very gruesome, very evil act. After abandoning the car containing Janice's body, Earl stole another vehicle and fled from officers. He was arrested later that night on a stolen car charge. While in custody, Facebook alerted East Baton Rouge Sheriff's Office and Louisiana State Police about the live stream. Deputies traced the tip to Sherwood Tower, where Baton Rouge Police Department took over the case. Following questioning, Earl admitted to the killing. This isn't Earl's first run-in with the law. He's previously been incarcerated in 2005 on several armed robbery charges. In 2007, he pleaded guilty and was sentenced to 15 years in prison, with credit for time served. 52-year-old Jeny Soto Duenas is behind bars after 2 young children in her care suffered significant burns to their hands. The incident occurred in the early morning hours of Tuesday, the 2nd of December 2025, at a trailer on Barks Drive in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. At around 10:30 p.m. that night, authorities were called to Destin Fort Walton Beach Hospital. 2 children ages 3 and 5 had been brought in with severe untreated burns to the palms of their hands. According to a family member, Jeny admitted she intentionally pressed the children's hands onto a hot griddle while holding them down because she was frustrated they asked for more food after eating. She then failed to seek medical care. The children have since been transferred to the USA Burn Center in Mobile, Alabama, where they are being treated for 2nd and 3rd degree burns. Jeny was arrested and charged with 2 counts of child neglect with great bodily harm. She's been held without bond at the Okaloosa County Jail and is also on hold for U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. A Georgia woman will spend the rest of her life in prison after fatally beating a 4-year-old son for not using the toilet. 43-year-old Sophia Williams was convicted in August 2025 on 2 counts of felony murder, 3 counts of aggravated battery, and 4 counts of first-degree cruelty to children. On Tuesday, the 9th of December, Sophia appeared in the DeKalb County Superior Court, where she was sentenced to life without parole plus 10 years. On the morning of the 6th of March 2022, DeKalb County Police responded to an apartment in Trigoni Drive in Decatur. Officers found Sophia's son, Anthony Weiss, unresponsive on the living room floor. He was rushed to Children's Healthcare of Atlanta, where doctors pronounced him dead. First responders reported extensive bruising across the child's body. Investigators later learned that Sophia admitted to striking Anthony with a hand, a house slipper, a purse strap, and a charging cord when he failed to use the toilet properly. A 13-year-old living in the home told police that Sophia had whooped Anthony the night before because he wouldn't use the bathroom. The witness said Anthony appeared dizzy and collapsed after being pummeled. Sophia placed him on a bed and threw water on him, reviving him only momentarily. Overnight, he never regained full consciousness. His only movements were reflexive, an arm jerking and a leg kicking. Sophia claimed that Anthony had accidentally hit his head the week prior and denied responsibility for his injuries. But investigators discovered she had searched her phone for phrases such as remedy for concussion and coma symptoms and causes before eventually falling asleep. She later said she woke up at around 5 a.m. to Anthony making low grunting sounds and his body completely limp. By 5:38 a.m., he had stopped breathing. Sophia phoned his father about 40 minutes later, but delayed calling 911 until 6:26 a.m. She admitted she hesitated because of the visible bruises on Anthony's body. An autopsy determined that Anthony died from blunt force trauma to the head. Prosecutors said he likely would have survived if medical care had been sought sooner. A 32-year-old North Carolina man is behind bars after his 4-month-old son was found with multiple brain bleeds. According to the Craven County Sheriff's Office, the investigation began on the 26th of November 2025 when deputies received a report of suspected child abuse involving the infant. Paramedics first transported the child to Carolina East Medical Center in New Bern, North Carolina, before he was transported to ECU Health Medical Center in Greenville for further treatment. During the investigation, authorities identified 32-year-old Marvin Lovell Norris Jr. of Grade 8 Court in Havelock as a suspect. On the 3rd of December, medical records confirmed the baby had both old and new injuries, including multiple brain bleeds. Medical staff determined the injuries were non-accidental. Deputies executed a search warrant at Marvin's residence, seizing evidence and locating approximately 2 pounds of marijuana. Marvin was arrested and charged with felony intentional child abuse causing serious bodily injury, felony possession with intent to sell and deliver marijuana, felony possession of marijuana, and possession of drug paraphernalia. At the time of his arrest, Marvin was already out on bond for a misdemeanor domestic violence charge involving the infant's mother from August 2025. He has now been placed in the Craven County Confinement Facility under no bond. In Cadillac, Michigan, a family murder has spiraled into shocking revelations. 22-year-old Rebecca Park vanished on the 3rd of November 2025 when she was 38 weeks pregnant. Her body was discovered 3 weeks later on the 25th of November in Manistee National Forest. Prosecutors called evil personified, a case of premeditated torture and murder, with Rebecca's own mother and stepfather accused of orchestrating the crime. Court documents reveal that Rebecca, her sister 21-year-old Kimberly Park, and her mother 40-year-old Courtney Bartholomew were all romantically involved with the same man, 43-year-old Richard Failor. In her confession, Courtney alleged that her husband, 47-year-old Bradley Bartholomew, Rebecca's stepfather, was the biological father of Rebecca's unborn child. According to probable cause affidavits, Courtney admitted that Rebecca was still conscious when she cut the baby from her womb, while Bradley held a knife to her throat. Courtney allegedly tried to tie off the umbilical cord, but once the child was removed, Bradley slit Rebecca's throat. Courtney also told investigators that Bradley had been researching C-sections and said he planned to cut the baby out of Rebecca in front of Richard. Evidence prosecutors say shows the crime was carefully planned. Documents also reveal disturbing details. The baby never took a breath. The couple allegedly placed the child in a cooler, then a trash bag, and finally a garbage receptacle. Rebecca's body was left mutilated and covered with leaves in the woods. Bradley was on a sex offender registry and had previously served a 180-day sentence for violating its terms. Investigators say Courtney was motivated by an obsession with having another child, but the couple could not adopt due to Bradley's offender status. Kimberly was arrested on the 26th of November, charged with tampering with evidence, lying to police and filing a false report. Detectives alleged she misled investigators by claiming Bradley had struck Rebecca in the head, causing a seizure before disposing of her body. On the same day Rebecca's body was found, Richard was arrested on a methamphetamine distribution charge. He pleaded not guilty on the 2nd of December. At a court hearing, Wexford County Prosecutor Johanna Carey described the crime as evil personified. Johanna told the court that Bradley lured Rebecca to their home, then he and Courtney forced her into another vehicle, drove her into the woods, and attempted to cut out her unborn child, causing the deaths of both Rebecca and the baby. Johanna called it a case of premeditated torture and murder, alleging the Bartholomews had created a plan and conducted research before carrying it out. Both Courtney and Bradley face identical charges: first-degree premeditated murder, felony murder, torture, conspiracy to commit torture, assault on a pregnant woman causing miscarriage or stillbirth, conspiracy to commit that assault, unlawful imprisonment, and removal of a dead body. Both were ordered held without bond. A New York man accused of strangling his girlfriend and killing their newborn son has died in jail. At around 9 p.m. on the 10th of December 2025, the Erie County Sheriff's Office said that 30-year-old Kidane Haile was found dead in the showers at the Erie County Jail in Alden. His death is being investigated as an apparent suicide. Kidane allegedly killed his girlfriend, 29-year-old Kathleen Carrig, and their 4-day-old son Noah, before setting fire to their home in the 400 block of Norwood Avenue in Buffalo at around 8:35 a.m. on the 18th of October 2025. At the time, Kidane was facing a maximum sentence of life without parole. An autopsy is scheduled for the 11th of December to determine the official cause of death.